Hello, everybody. So it's Thursday. It always like drives me crazy sometimes when I think like, are you kidding me? It's Thursday again? Like Thursdays come so fast in my business. I feel like the weeks are just flying by, which is awesome, right? When we have a business, we want to make sure that we have a business that is something that you love to do on a daily basis. And, most of us here, we all absolutely love what it is that we do. So thanks for joining us, you guys. And when you guys come on in, here's what we would like you to do. We would like you to tell us who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you tutor. And today you're going to be listening to stories from other people who have started their own online tutoring businesses. And what was their journey like? What is their life like today? What are some of the obstacles that they came against? And you are going to be inspired because these people are booked solid. In fact, Lisa was telling me just right before this that she even has a waiting list, which is like fantastic. Like that's like our biggest dream is like, oh my gosh, like I can actually tap into a list when I don't have space anymore. When I have space, I now can tap on into that. That is a dream come true. And the reason why I want you guys to hear these stories is because I want you to start picturing yourself with this success. I want you to see what is possible. So on Monday, you got to see how I started with 0 students. But guess what? Each one of these tutors also started with 0 students and is now booked solid. So we are going to just dive right on in. I know that Alan can only stick with us for a little bit of today. So we're going to start with Alan today.
Hi. I actually can stay longer. I moved a
Good.
student back 30 minutes, so which is good.
Oh, that's awesome. See, this is such an amazing community, you guys, that, you're taking the time to be able to do that, to be able to share your story, to inspire others by the journey that you've taken. And I know some people got to hear a little bit of your story on Monday that you shared. And you used to be in the engineering world, so you didn't come to us with a lot of teaching experience. You had tutored. Tutoring was something that you kind of did as like more like a hobby, just
Right.
to help people out.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had always enjoyed tutoring. Like in college, I was the tutoring officer at our Eta Kappa Nu, which is the Engineering Honor Society, Electrical Engineering Honor Society. So I tutored other students and organized the tutoring schedules for the office because part of our thing is we had offices, and so we were supposed to like tutor the students as part of our agreement with the department. And so I'd always enjoyed doing that. Even when I started working, I volunteered. I volunteered with a high school to help tutor, kids who needed. I would go to the school during the school day, during their study hour, and help out whoever needed help. I volunteered with a homeless tutoring company called School on Wheels, and they tutored at homeless shelters or with homeless kids, basically. So there was like a mix of things, and I'd always had a student basically randomly I would just tutor on the side for free. And it wasn't until a couple of years, like 2017, that I decided to try to like make it a business, like actually get paying clients to see, well, because one of my nervousness was like, I've only done this like one student a week. What's it look like if I do like 15, 20? Am I going to get tired of it? Like I want to decide if I really like want to do this. And so I kind of like weighted my win, just be like, well, we'll start with like 10 hours a week and see if I still like it, or if I just feel like I'm going to be too tired and maybe this isn't the direction I want to go. But then, yeah, that's where it started. So I did a part-time 10, then it kind of grew to like 15, 20 hours a week. And then at this past April, I decided like, look, I'm at a point where like, I have to, at some point you have to make a choice if you have a full-time job to be like, are you going to be all in on this, right? Like to jump from 20, like most you could do is maybe 25 hours in a week, but that's stretching yourself pretty thin if you're working full time.
Right.
So I had to decide to like, am I going to just go all in and then jump up to, whatever rate whatever number of hours I need to hit for income for my family. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you did end up making that switch.
Yeah.
And what were some of the thoughts that were going through your mind as you were making that switch, like giving up what felt like, I'm sure at the time, a very secure job to being your own boss and being, the head tutor of your tutoring company?
Yeah, I think the hard thing was giving up like benefits and yeah, a secure income, 401k, like all the kinds of things that you normally get with a business, all the perks, And then I knew because I had been doing it as a side that I had to pay the payroll taxes, the employer side of the payroll taxes. You don't understand, like it's not immediately clear that you actually have to pay more taxes being your own employee. Or your own employer, because you got to pay, because when you pay social security tax to company pays half, you pay half, and then
Right.
as an employer you have to pay the full amount. So all of that coupled together, I was like, wow, I don't know like what the rate should be at, like what will be enough. I had to do some calculations. I mean, I'm good at calculations and stuff like that, but when I was kind of like like how budgeting, like how we're gonna make everything work out in terms of like goals and targets. That's a very like an intimidating prospect, not just to get the number of hours, but just to make sure that you can cover all of the things that you had before. And that was a big challenge. And so one of the first things I felt like I need to do is I need to find other people. Like I was looking for, community, other tutors, things like that. Because when you're just on your own, it's like, like I don't have anyone to like talk about things or,
Right.
share struggles, like, because I'm just sort of on myself. I'm not going to share with my students, right? Like
Right.
these kinds of things. So.
Right. Yeah. And then you ended up finding us and you joined our community and
Yeah.
what was that like for you?
It was great because I was torn because I was like, we live in a world where it's like all these things should be free, or there's so many free things, and you're just like maybe enough. But I really wanted to build like solid connections, and I like the Facebook group is amazing, the ultimate the one that's like, where anyone can join and you can
Mhm.
learn a lot. You could just stay there and it'd be fine. But I really wanted to like have connections with other tutors more deeply, because I knew like this was a journey. I mean, people who are serious about taking this, like you want to be around those kinds of people, as opposed to the public group might have a mix of a lot of things, and like you may not be able to build as many connections.
Right.
So it's been great. I decided, I was talking to my wife. I was like, should I pay for this? Should I try it? I think I tried it for a month first to just see
Yep.
like what's it like, and then I decided to pay for the whole year because my wife said like, look, if it's answers what you're looking for, then it's gonna be worth it, like easily
Right.
pay for itself, not just
Exactly.
monetarily, but just value to you're seeking a community. And
Right.
if this is the community that you find, then it's going to be worth it, right? Like that's how she framed it for me, and I was like, okay, I think that's a good point. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
and you've stuck around, so
Yeah.
it's been working.
Yeah.
And you just joined up with our and Jumpstart program when the doors are going to open on Monday for people,
Yeah.
and you decided to join that. Now it's interesting because a lot of people will think like, oh well, it's kind of like a beginners group or something like that. But Jumpstart is really like, let's jumpstart your business wherever you're at, and
Yeah.
you're going to be able to learn some new stuff. So what motivated you want to join us as we start this Jumpstart group?
Yeah, there's always, I think, no matter how the business is, some people think that like your dream is to be totally booked, and that's fine. Like like that's fine. But like, I've always lived with like having a little bit goals. Like for right now, I'm a little too full. I'm working times that I don't necessarily want to work. I'm working with students I don't necessarily want to work with, or at least not I don't want to work with them, but that like I don't feel like I'm reaching them as well. And so and I want to reach more students. I want to do things like maybe offer classes where
Mm-hmm.
I have like two or three people online simultaneously. So there's
Yes.
aspects that I want to grow that is not just being stagnant, just being full. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think like nobody should ever feel like it's not a bad thing to feel like your business should want to like keep progressing. Like you don't have to
No.
feel like it's never perfect. You have to accept
Yeah.
that nothing is ever going to be perfect, and you want to going to keep growing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, look, there's the next step. There's the next step for my business. I have the things that I want to do. I want to offer these courses to like 3 or 4 students. That's going to require a different dynamic. And I want some ideas on like what other people have done and things like that. Those are the kinds of things that I appreciate, of having a community of other people to be like, what do you guys do? How do you guys handle these kinds of things? And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that knowing that your business can always grow and scale to another level actually adds that excitement to the whole entire mix, because it's like, oh, so I could do this next and I could do that next, and like, look how this could grow. And yeah, like you're growing an empire, like with your business. It starts with the one-on-one tutoring, and once you start to learn how to like market that one-on-one tutoring services, it now can begin to build and grow on itself. So that is super exciting. So we've got Ramona in the house. Woo woo. Hey, Ramona. And we got Beth, and Sam's in the house. That's Ashley's husband. I think it's Ashley's husband, or is he acting like you today?
No, it's him. He's on. Because
I said one time when he was on with me, I said, "Oh, Ashley's in the house." He's like, "No, that's just me."
Yeah. No, it's really him.
So today, Alan, your business does look a little bit more full and all of that kind of stuff, which you are kind of looking to scale it down just a little bit so that you don't have so many students. So as you think about the future, what are your future goals? Like, where do you see yourself in the next year?
So ideally, I'm probably doing 30 hours a week of tutoring. I think that's sort of like my point. That might be a little high for some people, but right now I'm more like 37, 38, and I've had to turn away enough students that like, and that's just a little too much. When my kids are older, maybe I can adjust my timings a little bit, but right now, like, that's pretty demanding for me on my time. So about 30 hours of tutoring a week. I want to be in a position to not say no to students, because I feel like to some extent, like when I keep saying no to students, it does mean my rate could go up to some extent, because it sort of means like my demand's a little bit higher than I can do. And that might turn away some students. That's why I also wanted to do the classes, to sort of like have a lower cost thing that I could reach more students. So I kind of I balance that need to sort of like cover like a lower income people who can't afford as high. For me, so what I love about the business stuff is that like your business can go in the direction you want to take it. So when I first started thinking about tutoring, like my dad was like, well, how is it going to grow? Like, you're gonna have to hire tutors and stuff like that. And I don't really want to do that. Like, I don't want my business to scale to where I'm hiring other tutors, and I'm sort of like the middleman in marketing and like funneling it out to other tutors. That's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's great. But like, that's just not like the thing that I'm interested in.
Right.
So there's other kinds of content, membership sites, certain things that I want to build out for people that I can like do at a lower cost point to help reach more students. So it's those kinds of things. Like, I don't know the timeline for those kinds of things. It's sort of like each semester or each year, I have a goal of like, higher rate, enough one-on-one tutoring, and then, expand some of these other offerings that like are more me, but that can scale up like income level wise and everything and reach more people. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do in the next year, next few years even.
Oh, very cool. I love it. And in the next year, you're going to see more things being offered to guide tutors in how to do that. So that's the exciting thing too, that you don't have to travel that journey alone. There'll be other tutors that are going to join you in that whole, how do I start the membership thing going inside of our community, which is awesome. And so when we think about, what are some of over the past year, as you've been running your business, what are some of the biggest lessons that you have learned?
That's a good question. So a big thing for me has been mental barriers around rates. Since I came from an engineer background, like my salary was pretty high. Like, so I kind of, but still, like, I put my frame of references like, oh, that's what someone's willing to pay me as a salary. Like, my tutoring should be less than that, or a little bit less than that, because I'm not doing engineering work anymore. I'm just tutoring things that like I don't need. But that was a big mental barrier for me. And maybe some of you who come from teachers backgrounds, you think like this is the pay you get, so this is all you should really, seek out when you do tutoring, or the rate you get, or whatever, when you do the calculations. So I would say that was a big thing to get over, is like, look, it wasn't like my work before was of higher value, and so that should be paid more than what I'm getting paid now. Like it's not like that. The value is whatever I'm bringing. If the parent or the client is happy with what they're paying and what they're getting out of it, then that's what the rate should be, not tied to what my previous salary was or anything like that. And so that was probably one of the big mental barriers I'm still working on. Like, it's still like, even every time I increase the rates, I'm like, oh, that sounds too much. Like, who's going to do? The other thing is I'm not willing to pay that necessarily that much for tutoring. I don't know. Like, my kids aren't too young right now to really tutoring. So maybe that my mindset will change on that too.
Yeah.
Like one of the things is like, am I going to pay someone $100 an hour to do something like that? Like, I mean, I don't know, you know, I feel like I could do it with my own kids. So I don't know, maybe, but then you think like, well, I do pay someone a lot to like do things on my car or handle the plumbing or appliance fixings, and they pay a pretty high rate too. So, you know, I think there's a mindset of like, you have to get around that. Not what your value is and like what you're willing to pay for a specific service is not the same as what someone else is willing to pay for a specific service. And so like, there's plenty of people who can do all the work on their car. And so they're unwilling to pay the dealer or anyone to do any of those things, but that's fine. They don't have to, but someone will, right? That's how right. How the whole, our economy works.
Well, yeah, there's two things. I always tell people there are two things that we have to take into consideration whenever we want something. You either are going to put in a ton of time or you're going to have to pay money.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. So, you know, even a parent who maybe knows what to do is going to have to put in a ton of time to be able to help their own child, which they may or may not have. But then you also have then the arguments that come. That is a whole nother battle that some people would like to skip, right? And so you're offering a service, not only is it valuable and you are helping kids succeed in areas that, you know, we absolutely need kids succeeding in, and you're doing so many good things, and that deserves to get paid. And the people who are better at doing it and are in high demand, they have that right to be able to raise those rates. One of my coaches at one point told me, if you are saying, if everyone is saying yes to you, you are not charging enough. And I was like, ooh, yeah, everybody is saying yes, so I need to raise my rates. Yeah. Like, I am not, like, I was like so proud, like, oh, nobody's turning down my services at $75 an hour. You know, that's so exciting. Yeah. And then all of a sudden when I heard that, I was like, oh, so if nobody's saying no, I should be charging more, so that some people say no and it weeds them out. And then I could be making more per hour. So yeah, it there's a whole mindset against the whole money thing that happens. So what does your typical day? I know everybody wants to know, what does a typical day look like? What does your typical day look like? I know it is different every day, but what is a typical day that you could explain to another tutor? What does it look like for you?
Okay, so usually up around 6:30 with the kids. And then I literally, so I dropped off my daughter at the bus stop literally like 30 minutes ago. So 35 minutes ago. And then my day of tutoring starts around 9:30, 10 a.m. my time. So that's right now it's 9:48 a.m. So my first student's gonna be 10:30 a.m. today. I will do about 4 or 5 hours of tutoring during the afternoon before my daughter has to come home. And she's in kindergarten, so she rides the bus though. But like for kindergartners, the parent has to be there to pick them up the bus. She's not allowed to just walk home by herself, even though it's down the street. But like still, like for kindergartners, they don't want to like deal with that liability, which is fine. I like picking her up at the bus stop. Come home. That is like dinner prep and, you know, seeing how her day went and talk about it. Then my wife comes home with the boys who are in a daycare because they're younger. They're not in elementary school yet. Then around 8 o'clock, I do a second shift. I used to do like 8 to 10. I was just saying before, I took on a new student from 10 to 11 a couple days a week.
Yeah.
8 to 11 or so. And then that's it. So that ends up being about 7 to 8 hours of tutoring per day. And I'm not gone when my kids, like I'm pretty much there from when they're home to when they go to bed is when I'm tutoring outside of those times. Now, like I said, I'm a little too busy right now. Like 38 hours at that schedule is a little too much for me.
Yeah.
because like I go to bed at 11 and then I wake up at 6:30 again the next day. There's not a lot of room, not a lot of gaps in there for just like, time for myself or to even just get things done around the house. But yeah, that's what my current schedule looks like. Like I said, 38 hours probably too much given that schedule. But yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love that you take time for family. Like that's part of the equation for you, that it's not just all about like, let me get as many students as I can and work every single hour that I possibly can. Like we need to figure out like a pattern that is going to be conducive with our lifestyle. So that's really awesome that you've done that. How inspiring. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have an open question time at the end where I bring in some of the bigger topics that everybody struggles with, but we're going to move on to our beautiful Ashley Dimercurio. Hey, Ashley.
Oh, that was such a lovely intro. Thank you.
It was so cool being able to meet with you last month and
I know.
be able to go to the conference together.
That was pretty special. I like Alan. I definitely crave like the community feeling and becoming a solopreneur, and like it can feel a little isolating. So, but getting to meet you and a bunch of the other reading tutors in New Orleans, that was like really amazing. It definitely took it to another level. So
it did.
It's cool to be a part of. So anyway, I'm Ashley and I'm Your Reading Tutor is the name of my business. And I primarily tutor reading. But literacy is like, they're all kind of related. So there's definitely a lot of spelling practice and spelling help. And I have a couple students that I work on writing with, and I think it's kind of fun. I think this is unique to me. I haven't heard of anybody else doing this, but for writing instruction, I've been like a pen pal with a couple of my students because they're younger. And so they don't have like a writing tablet to like, I could look at something they type, but a lot of them don't have a lot of those typing skills because I primarily tutor like K through 6th grade. I would say like that's mostly, or even like K through 4 probably. Yeah. Or that's like the main group I'm working with. So I have them like, they write me a letter and then I can scan their letter in at my house and put it up on the screen and we can like look at their writing that way. And that's been pretty cool.
I love that.
So I've done that.
And it's really building a strong relationship. Like kids love getting mail.
Right.
So much. So to be like, that just really adds, that's a wow factor, I think, to your tutoring services that you offer.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know of anybody else doing that right now, but it's been working really great. And I think that students really like it and parents are always really surprised and like, oh yeah, well, definitely we can send that to you, or, and it's easier, I feel like, for me to like really hold their writing in my hands and see it. And I can get a lot of value that way versus like another student had recently sent me something like it was scanned. Like it's just the quality isn't as good, like, so I really enjoy doing that. But I would say most of my students, I'm working on like the reading, foundations of reading and that kind of stuff. So, and I've been pretty fully booked now since last spring. I feel like, and I got really, like Alan, I experienced, it got a little bit too much in the summer. For my schedule. And I think that's just part of the process. Part of the journey is like figuring out where your threshold is. And like, I think, with what I do, like it's so individualized that it's not like I'm teaching 15 lessons that are all exactly the same.
Right.
Like every single hour, every single student is different and personalized. So it's a lot, I think it's more taxing mentally. And like, so I don't feel like I can give the same quality of instruction if I go over a certain number of students.
Yeah, I agree. And like, even like getting a bunch of students at one time for me, really it just like drains me. It's like, okay, like who is who and from where, and I got to keep all of this information together. And
there's a lot of onboarding. Like, you have to like do that initial assessment and then you're like processing that assessment. And I write up a report for the students and like takes time, that whole process, plus the going back and forth with them. And then, once you onboard them and you're like officially starting, there's still a little bit of like warm up time where you're building rapport and you're getting to know each other. And that's all like, you put a lot of yourself into it,
Yeah,
you know?
for
So
sure.
I had to kind of work with that, but I love where I'm at now with, you know, I have between like, I think I'm doing like around 20 to 25 hours of tutoring,
Okay.
as students kind of come and go. And I have a few students I see more than once a week. I have a couple I see more, you know, more
Sure.
frequency.
Yeah.
And that feels pretty good. Cause then at the high end, I'm like, okay, this is my max, but at the low end, I don't feel like concerned, you know, it's
Right.
like, it feels like the sweet spot, you know?
Good, 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 good.
So,
Yeah, that's really important.
and for us, you know, like Alan was talking about his schedule with his kids. I homeschool my son, Michael, he's in second grade, and the schedule I have allows me to have like a big chunk of my day in the middle available
Mhm.
to homeschool, to help with homeschooling. And I think I have a unique situation in that my husband also now, you know, is home as an entrepreneur, and working with me on my business, and working with Joanne a little bit. And so it's like, we do this like switching off. So even when my kids aren't with me, like if I'm tutoring, they're with Sam. So it's like they're with my husband. So it's not like, you know, I don't know, it doesn't feel necessarily like I'm missing out on anything because
Yeah.
I know they're with him, you know? So
Right,
yeah.
right. And that's like that's again like another beautiful way to like balance your
Mhm.
life, your business, your
Mhm.
family. It's so incredible that you
Yeah.
have the ability to do that. You have the choice to be able to, you know, homeschool your kids
Right.
if you want to, or to send them to school if you want to. You have the
Right.
choice to. I remember you saying at one point that you guys um when Sam started staying home, that it was like you could just like go to the park, and then like later on you could just like then go and, you know, tutor, and you know
Right.
it's a little bit of a balancing act, but it's a really
Yeah.
fun one, I find. How about
It
you?
is. Yes, definitely. We're at a good place right now. There was a, you know, a little bumpy start in the beginning. Like we had our days because my husband was working, you know, full time outside of the house in a very
Right.
corporate position, and really missed a lot of, like a lot of time with the kids, and missed like parenting, and missed like learning how to navigate a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, you know, like whatever. So now over the summer, he had a lot of on the job training, I say, like, you know, while I scaled up my business and I was shifting into working the, you know, more full-time hours, like
Sure.
he was switching, you know, he was moving into his new job as a more primary parent. And like, that's like, there is a lot of learning that has to
Yes,
happen for both of us on that, you know, and
for
switching
sure.
roles like that. So there was, you know, a lot of days where we were like figuring out communication around schedules, and like we heavily rely on our Google Calendar now, and like who's doing, and because our days, you know, we switch hats frequently throughout the day. Like we're not in a position right now where I'm tutoring like for this huge chunk of time and then off. Like I tutor a little bit in the morning, then I have a big chunk of time off, and then I tutor more in the afternoon and evening. But like, that's not for everyone, but for us, it's working really great because it allows us to homeschool. It allows me to be available in the middle of the day for, you know, play dates, or picking, you know, going to pick up Celia at preschool or whatever. Like it just gives us a lot of flexibility. So,
Yeah.
and I finally decided that I deserved one full day off. So I have
Yay.
Fridays completely off. So
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
I usually end up doing some work, but I'm not like
I
tutoring
know.
any students. So
Isn't it funny though? Like the work, like I do the same thing. Like I now, like I used to work 7 days a week. Like
Mhm.
probably a good 4 years of my
Yeah.
business, I worked 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And now I do take Saturdays and Sundays completely off, no students whatsoever, and no appointments whatsoever. But it doesn't mean that I'm not doing any work.
Mhm.
Because there's always something that I'm like, oh, I could work on this, or I could work on that. And, you know,
Right.
because I don't have any students, I feel like my brain capacity is like able to handle it. And so I
Yes.
was like, okay, you know, if I get to this, cool. If I don't, it's not going to be the end of the world. I'll get to it, you know, next week. But usually I end up working on it, and, you know,
Yeah.
but it's stuff that you want to work on. It's stuff that you like enjoy.
Right. Right.
Right.
It's that whole like, when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, you know.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I still have to pinch myself every day that this is all real. But like,
I remember the last call in the summer. I watched it, like I was doing the playback, and I said it was dreamy, and like our life is dreamy. It is like, it's cliche, but like it's really right now, we're both really happy, the happiest we've ever been in our professional careers. We feel like we're providing, a lot of value. We feel really good about the work we're doing. We're really available to like be the kind of parents we want to be, both of us. I mean, Sam is a really involved dad, and that's like what he wants for his life. So I think you gotta respect that,
Gotta respect that. And your husband is saying that you are so cool and you're an amazing tutor. He gets to see it firsthand too. He knows.
He's really my biggest fan. He knows all the phonics rhymes now because our house is like, we have it was like a formal dining room that we've converted into our office. And then on the other side is like our living room, homeschool room, kitchen, like, and you can, it's kind of open. So we have a wall, like a half wall up, but anyway. So like I'll be in here tutoring and I can hear Sam and the kids on the other side, silent E, like I'm singing the songs, and now everybody knows the songs. And Celia is only 3. She doesn't even know what any of it means, but she just knows all the words to the song.
Right. Why not? Mom's singing it all the time. Then I'm going to sing it all the time.
Yeah.
And you just go with it. Yeah. My kids are at the age where they're like, if you seriously sing, I will give you the evil eye like nobody's business. It doesn't matter what I say or do. It's this.
It's kind of like when you were dancing down the street in New Orleans.
Yeah, I do dance a lot.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Started acting like one of my kids. Like, what is she doing? Yeah. My daughter the other day, she actually grabbed my hand and she started skipping, and I started skipping with her. And she's like, well, that just happened. I'm like, sure did. Why not? You started skipping. Why should I not start skipping? Right?
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, you got to enjoy life and have fun and do all that kind of stuff. And I love that we don't have to care anymore. We don't have administration that is breathing down our neck. We can have the freedom to be able to choose what we need to teach next, to be able to help our students, and we have the freedom to choose our schedules, the way that it's going to work for us, and be able to work with just some of the most amazing kids on the planet, which is awesome.
Yes, totally. I've definitely been very fond of my students, and I tell Sam, like, some of them that I've been with for a long time, you get this really, you get this inside look into their life, because with online tutoring, they're typically in their home, so I can't believe all of your students' pets' names, like,
I know.
Like, well, I don't know, like, it's just part of the experience, they're always showing me the pets, and they want to know how many pets I have, and it's just part of the experience. So.
I know the names of the tutors' pets too. Lisa's got Patrick. I saw Patrick earlier today. I got my Patrick love. But yeah, you do. You get to know their pets. You get to know inside of their lives, and it's pretty incredible. We've got Patricia in the house. Hey, Patricia. So glad that you are joining us here. We've got 14 other people that are on with us. So thank you guys for joining us. If you guys haven't had a chance to introduce who you are, what you tutor, please introduce yourself inside of the chat. We want to be able to welcome you, learn a little bit more about you. This is all about, really collaborating together, because one of the really cool things that we get to do, like an actual income stream, gets to be with building relationships with other tutors, because they will refer you guys. Like, we get to know each other. We become really close friends together. We are not the kind of people, though, that will refer a stranger to one of our students. Like, that is not the way we roll at all. No. And I'm sure you've had people ask you to do that, right, Ashley?
Yeah.
And who are you more likely to refer students to?
Definitely people I've worked with before in some capacity, or people that I've gotten to know, seen their, you talk so much about building an online presence, and before I would refer someone, I would definitely be watching some of their content, like, just to because I don't ever want to like hire people under me, because I think like the quality of service, like I wouldn't be able to like control another person, like people in our business, I feel like they're hiring you because they want you, like, right. Someone mentioned about is the math tutoring market saturated? I saw that comment and I was like, well, you're not in it. Like, it's you, like I don't know, to me, that comment of like, is it saturated? Not really, because you are you, and you're the only one, and what you offer, is going to attract certain people that want to work with you.
Right.
So anyway, that's really long. I went off on a tangent, but basically I feel like I will have to connect with someone and feel really good about, you have to trust that they're, gonna deliver,
Right.
and be good at what they do. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be scary. Like if you refer the wrong person, like how is that client going to now feel about you? Right.
right. And I think with the insiders group, Alan spoke to this a little bit, but putting, the ultimate support group for online tutors is great. And there's a lot of really amazing information in there, and people are so supportive and chiming in, but it is definitely a mix of, tutors who are working for like a company, or tutors who are haven't yet started, or, that there's just a really big mix of people in there.
Right.
And I feel like the insiders group is a smaller number, but there's still a variety in there, and so it's more intimate. People, like, you actually get to know and remember the people that you're working with, and there's more opportunity to like really interact and get to know someone's personality, like through getting on the calls. And I mean, that's how I met Victoria, who I worked with super closely forever. So, was getting on an insider's call. So
yeah. And that, being able to, because we actually get on live calls, just kind of like we're doing right now, but it's with, we have in the new year, we're going to have more focused calls where we're talking about specific things within our group. But that's where you get to know people, is when you get to see them and be with them and hear what are they struggling with, and what is going well for them. And you get to kind of hear into their teaching style a little bit.
Yeah. It's really inspiring, I think. You sent an email today about, are you inspired by other tutors, or do you feel competitive? And I always feel like I want to learn from other tutors. I want to collaborate with them. I want to, as much as I can, like, that's how I learned the most. That's why I was so determined to go to New Orleans, because I'm like, I'm going to get as much out of sitting and talking with these tutors as I will get out of going to the actual classes and the conferences.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. And then those relationships that you build as well, they're so powerful, powerful, because you can continue to learn. I remember learning a lot from you as well, as you were like sitting and sharing. And it's, I do a couple of things different now in my reading tutoring practice, because it's like, oh, okay. Like I was able to take some of the stuff that you had talked about and be like, oh, let me try that. Let me implement that with my business and see how it can help kids. And
really, I feel so special. You did something that I suggested.
Yeah. I like those I words.
I know. That's right. Yeah.
Yes. I love those I words. So very, very cool. And we have Lisa also here today, you guys. And Lisa she's been working with lots of students over the past year, and really kind of diversifying who she works with. But I still see her as my Praxis girl, because this girl knows what she's talking about. Now, I helped somebody in Praxis once, and I was kind of overwhelmed by the process because I didn't understand the ins and outs like Lisa Vicino does. But Lisa, you were talking about earlier today when we were just chatting about how your business has just grown so much in the last year. So tell us about the kind of growth that you experienced over the last year.
Yeah. So the beginning of the year was really, really hard for me. I actually came into January with 4 hours booked. I had no other leads. I had no other students. And the student that I was working with was really only going to need those 4 hours and they would be done. So I was really, really scared. So I had kind of been stalking Joanne over on YouTube forever, and, just consuming all her content and showing up at her, live premieres and everything. So I decided to join the Insider Secrets. I had worked with a coach, but she wasn't specific to the tutoring arena. And I think she was used to dealing with business services that were higher, per hour value.
Right.
It was more business to business. So a very different clientele, different way of marketing, different everything, to be honest. But I joined with Joanne, and so quickly things started to turn around for me. I was feeling very dejected, and right in that first call, I think it was one of the group coaching calls, the whole group just built me up and made me believe that even though it was really tough right now, that it I had within me the ability to turn this around, and that I had a value that people needed.
Yeah.
So I just really started diving into interacting with people, building relationships. I went from just offering my praxis. I added a couple of services for younger kids, because then I would have some clients that were around long term. When you're doing test prep, it's very short term. So
Right.
there's a lot of turnaround, and there's always that chance of you finishing up with everybody and then having a month where you have nobody.
Yeah.
So I diversified a little bit, and actually it was really fun. I hadn't worked with kids in about a year. So there's nothing cuter than, fifth graders and sixth graders. I just love working with them. They're so fun. They have so much to bring to the table, and really they are just primed for learning. It's so fun. I love it.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So I built that out a little bit, but again, my primary offering is the praxis. In the end of the spring, I started a Facebook group, and just really showed up in that Facebook group, constantly offering service. And instead of just sticking to, oh, here's a math problem, let me show you how to do it, I actually dug in deep into some of the mindset that they were experiencing.
Yeah.
The mental blocks. Some of the students didn't know how to study, particularly math.
Yeah.
So really digging into that, how to take a test, and, not like, I'm not here's the trick and the secret to how to, hack this problem. That's not my style, really.
Yeah.
But more just, okay, how do we get you in the mindset to walk into that test and feel confident and calm and focused?
Yeah.
Because that's what you need to perform your best.
Yeah.
And just really teaching them how memory works, how the learning process. If I have a lot of students that come to me with learning disabilities that are looking to be teachers. And, maybe they want to be an English teacher, but they've always had a problem with math, all through their educational career, right? So you've got to build down all those feelings that they've had from all those negative experiences. I've had students that have a lot of trouble with memorizing formulas. So I had to find a workaround for that, or conceptualizing concepts, workaround for that. So really, it's more, a lot of my work is intervention. It's not just I need to, move from a B to an A level, or bump my, score up. These are students that are truly, truly struggling.
Yeah.
But what I found was that by creating this community, I really got to understand more students, built a lot of relationships. I also always keep in touch with my students. So referrals, I got so many referrals this year, from students that felt like I really helped them. I really connected with them. And that's such a great thing. There's this one school, and I don't even know where the school is, but I have actually helped like 8 students pass the praxis that are affiliated with this one school. And it's such a neat thing that people continue to recommend me. And I feel very blessed, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's very interesting is I often hear people say, there just isn't enough, need in a certain area. Now you've really niched down when we talk about the praxis exam. Like, you're not doing like any kind of test prep, right? Like, I have people who will say things like, well, well, I teach chemistry and that's really niche down and I don't really see how I could have enough clients to be able to work with, but you've really taken the time to build a community, to build a name, to build a presence, to be able to connect with these people, to understand where they're coming from, to be of service before you ever really even said, hey, by the way, why don't you work with me?
Yeah, I waited, I want to say 3 or 4 months before I even said, if you're interested in tutoring, send me a message.
Yeah.
It was just me in there every day serving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very protective of the group. Like I really kind of screen
Yes.
Before I let anybody in, because I don't want it to become a marketplace.
Right.
I'm very selective about how often I put out an offer or ask if anybody wants to work with me. I really believe in organic growth and things
Yes.
happening naturally.
Yes.
And I didn't want anybody to feel like they were just being sold to constantly.
Right.
They're there to learn. They're
Right.
there to get help, so.
Yep. That's exactly how I run the Ultimate Support Group and the Insider Secrets Club is that stuff is totally not allowed because we are here to all learn and grow from each other. I know I didn't get a chance to say hi to some of these other folks that have joined us on in here. We've got Jim Shelley. Awesome. He tutors computer languages and computer science topics. And we've got Sarah Travers, and she's from the UK and she tutors reading. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Oh, and we've got Alexa in the house too. And Alexa said that she wants to go back on our trip, Ashley. She wants to go back. I don't know if I want to go back to New Orleans, guys, but
no, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm totally in for like something a little bit more like homey, like Ohio next year.
Yes, exactly.
I never need to go on Bourbon Street again on a Saturday in the afternoon.
Yeah. Especially in your minivan, right?
In my minivan that got faced.
People were so close to her. This actually stuck something in her windshield, and she didn't even know it until later we found it there.
No, because my eyes were like this, like, please God, don't let me kill somebody today. I've never driven on a road with so many people on the road in my life. It was like, I felt like I was not only taking my life in my hands, but theirs as well. But so yeah, you've just done something that is just so incredible with your community that, it is very inspiring to know that you've almost created the space where if you even do put an offer, you now have people that are raising their hand because of what you have done.
Yeah, I've put the call out for anybody that wants to work with me, I believe twice, maybe 3 times, and I've already had 4 students.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, really, this is just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
The plan is in the next year to offer some small group because
Mm-hmm.
not everybody in my group can afford one-on-one tutoring. Mm-hmm. But also because I'm full, I actually had to tell a student that I couldn't work with them for another month.
Right.
So by having some small group, it helps them, but it also helps me. So yeah, I'm hoping to really kick that off in the new year. Mm-hmm. And do some of that. And of course, they would still have the opportunity to work individually with me. I recommend that if there's particular, like a real challenge for them. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a learning disability or ADHD or any special case like that. Or if it's really like they haven't had a math class in, several years. I have a lot of people making career changes.
Yeah.
They haven't been a college student in a long time.
Right.
They haven't had to take a standardized test. And those tend to be cases where you really do need to dig really deep into that. Mm-hmm. And a small group might not make sense in that case. So
right. And then that will open up those spots for you to be able to serve at those people. Now I'm kind of hearing the same a theme kind of come from everybody about scaling. So a lot of people, when they start tutoring, they're like, oh, I want to start with group classes. But group classes aren't where we start, because what would be the problem? Someone had this mindset of like, I want to start with group classes, and any of you guys can kind of like jump on in. What would be the problem with that mentality if I want to start with group classes?
You're not just finding one student, you're having to find, 3, 4, like the group of people that are, at a similar enough level. They're all willing to have the same time. Like scheduling is really kind of tricky with group classes. And those would be my immediate concerns as somebody just starting out,
Right.
The marketing is way more sophisticated. There's a way steeper learning curve with that. You need to have a lot of content out there. You need to have a bigger audience.
Yes.
Because, where one-on-one, I could have, a handful of conversations and sign, let's say half those students.
Yeah.
When you are selling, when you're trying to get a group, you need to reach way more people to get that same number of people to say yes.
Yeah.
It's a completely different process, to be honest.
Yeah. I almost find too, like with working with people one-on-one, I have the ability to find out what are the things that most people are struggling with all the time. And now I can offer a small group just on that. Like, let's say somebody wants to now improve on this specifically. I can offer now a small group once I have worked with several kids and I build up that relationship, and the parents can share my content and they can do that. When I opened up the doors for a small group, then it was a lot easier to be able to fill something like that and make sure that the ages made sense and that kind of stuff. It's not something I personally enjoy, working with small groups of kids. So I've not really pursued it too much, but I did find it a lot easier after I had people. And then a lot of people are like, well, now I want to be able to make money while I sleep. And so they automatically come into the like online tutoring, like, yeah, I'd like to work with a couple of kids one-on-one, but I really want to make money while asleep. But here's the thing, you guys, we got to make money while we're awake before we can make money while we're asleep.
Yeah.
So by working with kids one-on-one, you get to find out like, okay, what works, what doesn't work, what do most of the kids struggle with, what is something that I can now begin to monetize on. Like it's all about like building up your business and then expanding it and scaling it as needed over time.
I feel like
go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like that the idea of like passive income, like that's kind of a misnomer, because like you have to like do the work to create the product, and then you're marketing the product. And like, yes, you might wake up in the morning and have a sale overnight, but like, it's not for lack of work. Like, I mean, I know like I'm currently working really hard on building my email list and building an audience that's not just like clients, but just like an audience, growing that audience. And I'm working on a course, and I spent like 8 hours working on it yesterday, plus my tutoring clients. Like, it's not passive at all, so it's a lot of work.
The compound effect does take into effect, you guys. So, yes. I mean, like, that's a beautiful piece of it. So while you guys now have started to experience the compound effect with your business in tutoring, with the referrals and with like all the things that are spreading and working, it does start to begin to work like that as well with programs, with courses, with that.
Yes.
It does all come down to like building that community of people. All right. Now I know one of the biggest topics that lots of tutors struggle with in the beginning is imposter syndrome. So raise your hand if you guys ever experienced imposter syndrome at all. All right.
And it's not just at the beginning. I mean, as you hit new opportunities and areas of growth, you go through another round of it.
Yes. So true. So true. Who am I to be able to help them? Right? Like, that's the imposter syndrome. Who am I to be able to feel like I can lead this group of people? We all go through imposter syndrome, and it's heavily hit, I feel like, in the beginning, but it continues to revisit us over and over again. So who wants to share about what their imposter syndrome kind of looked like?
I think for me, it was like, like I said, one of my mental barriers has been rates, and so it's like as I increase my rates, I'm like, oh, do I really deserve this much money, or can charge this much money? Am I that good that I'm going to do that? And it also hits me when a student doesn't reach the goals that we kind of set out. Sometimes the goals are just a little out of the reach, and it was a little bit too much. Like I had a student I was supposed to meet earlier this morning at 6 a.m. but he ended up dropping the class because he was just kind of not doing well in it, and it was going to affect his he was a high school student taking a college class, and so he was in college calculus. It was like really accelerated. He just didn't have time, as much time to study, and so it ended up not working out. And so when those kinds of things hit, then you start feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not like really helping as many people as I thought I was, or maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or whatever, right? And that's where it can come again and again when you see failure in your students and you feel like you let them down to some extent. Like that can be a hard thing to manage.
Yeah, you'll often see that pop on up, right? Like let's say they fail a test, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, like this kid knew the content and yet they failed the test. What happened? We can't control every single circumstance. We can't control that kid's mental state before they go into that test. There are just some things that are out of our control, but that is a big time where that starts to pop on in. And just know, you guys, that this is normal, that it does happen, and you can beat it. And some of us haven't even been classroom teachers before. Raise your hand if you haven't been a classroom teacher before. We got two of you guys that have not been a classroom teacher before. Did imposter syndrome come in, that piece of it at all for you?
I felt like I had to get the certification
right
at one point, even though I had no intention of teaching in a classroom. And I started to pursue it. And then in our state, you've got to do quite a bit of, in classroom experience. I feel like it was like a 2-year commitment with the alternate route. And my husband said, why are we pursuing this thing that you have no intention of doing?
Right.
And you're going to go teach in a classroom for 2 years where you don't want to be a teacher? So I really fed into it. I was willing to invest a lot of time and money, and but yeah, I should be a teacher. You know what? I need to be a teacher. People are going to care that I don't have that certification, and I do get asked, but I say, no, I am not a teacher. I have a lot of experience with these subject matters. Back in the day, I actually tutored for the community college that I went to. So I tell them that I did that years ago when I was a college student. But really, nobody's like, oh, I don't want to work with you because you're not a teacher.
Right. Like that isn't even like on their radar. Here's what they care about, right? Like they care about, can you get results with my child? Nobody cares. Like at the end of the day, look, you guys, we are tutors. So it's not like you need to have like this fancy degree in order to be successful. So, if that's causing the imposter syndrome for you, throw that in the garbage, because it is garbage. If you can help, if you feel confident that you can get results with your students, that's what your students care about and the parents care about.
Definitely. I don't know, before you came out with the New Orleans trip, or maybe it was like right around there, I was about to sign up for a pretty intense Orton Gillingham training, because I thought that was what I needed, and I did a little bit of research and I found some training for free, and I was able to say that I was trained in it. Now I'm not certified in it, but I'm now trained in that method. If I have a client, this is how it came about, because I had a client that wanted that kind of instruction. Like, I want to hire you, but I want you to do this, and I was sort of like, well, I don't know if I'm, it sounds a lot similar to what I'm already doing. So then I was thinking like, is this going to be a thing? Am I going to, do I need the certification to keep getting clients? And so I just started looking into that a lot, and I was able to find some free training and kind of create like a hybrid of my own, which is great because I can do my own thing as an online tutor. But Anyway, the point is I took that money and put it into the trip instead. I did not do the training. And that client, they had decided at that point they were going to work with somebody else who did have the certification, but then they came back to me shortly after, hired me. And that student is now, she just posted he's reading on grade level, and I only worked for them for a few months. So I didn't have that certification. I got him to grade level. So it's like, it's about the results. Now I'm like, okay, I made the right choice. Like I didn't need that, you know?
You did make the right choice. And you do know how to, because you went through the reading interventionist program. So you know how to be able to identify where their weaknesses are and be able to hone in on that so that you can be able to help each of your students, which is really, really awesome. I love it. Definitely. Well, it's already 12:30, you guys. So just one last question. What is some advice for some of the tutors that you have for people that are just getting started?
One thing I mentioned in the group, somebody asked about like what strategies have you used to get students, or what sort of habit you have that's helped you really grow your business. And I think for me, I said, I think I'm really good at networking. I am not afraid to talk to people. If I meet someone new in just my normal life, I always ask like, oh, hey, are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Like, let's connect, even if it's just my personal profile, because I share things there. It's all in, once they're in my friends list, I can invite them to my business page. And, you know, it's so, and I always look for opportunities to network outside of my immediate circle. And I find value in things that, you know, I'm not getting paid necessarily to do this, but it's helping me build my network. And that is the payment for me. And, you know, that is the way I have gotten, you know, my students have come from this network that I've grown over the last few years. And so my advice would definitely be like, just get out there and meet people and network. And if you have the funds, like I've done some groups, like membership groups, like BNI, where it's like professional networking, but I've also just doing my own. Like I said, every time I meet someone new, I say, hey, are you on Facebook? And that most everyone is, or if they're not, they're on Instagram. And it's not weird to ask that, because
it's normal.
It's social media. Like that's just what we do. Like, so even like I had a reading tutor t-shirt, and the lady at Trader Joe's was like, oh, you're a reading tutor. And I was like, oh yeah, are you on Facebook? I'm friends with the checkout lady at Trader Joe's. Like, you know, like, so I just like, I'm not afraid of people. Just get out there and network, and that will really help you grow your business and your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa, what's some advice that you could give some new people that are just getting started?
So very similar to Ashley, you want to make it so that everybody in your life knows what you're about to do. I actually did a business announcement to everybody I have ever met in my life. And I did find that people would think of me when someone else said, hey, I need a tutor.
Yes.
So maybe not my immediate network needed tutoring, but there was always somebody that did. The other thing I really did was you just got to put yourself out there. You know, I was right off the bat was a huge fan of Instagram with my ideal client. You know, teachers, they tend to, most of them are younger. They were all on Instagram. They were sharing their whole journey. Those Instagram accounts are like portfolios for their journey to becoming a teacher. So you have to be on social media. There are some really low cost ways to get the word out there to people that aren't in your center of influence. I love Craigslist. It's one of my favorite ways. It's super affordable. It's not a lot of work to do. So, but yeah, you gotta get yourself out there. You gotta give the ask. If you see somebody talking about tutoring or struggling with a test, you've got to say, hey, do you want to talk?
You know, and it's interesting that you guys are bringing this on up, because this is actually a big piece that we're going to be blowing on up inside of the Jumpstart group, that the doors open on Monday. I sent a link in here, you guys. And so definitely click on that if you want to get on the waiting list so that you don't miss out information. There's only going to be 50 spots that I am opening up for this program. So once those spots are gone, we close the doors, and you won't be able to we won't open the doors for another couple of months, well into the new year once we go through. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to jump on the horn with and be a part of, because it's going to be amazing. I love it, because this is what we're going to be talking about, is how do I specifically do the kinds of things that you were talking about? What do I do to do that? Because a lot of people don't know specifically how do I go about that without being annoying. And, you know, they hear other people say that and then they start spamming people. And so that's not what we're talking about whatsoever. It is about, you know, creating meaningful relationships and reaching out in an authentic manner. So that's what we're going to be teaching you guys how to do, so that you can begin to get your students. So our whole goal is, your mission is, if you choose to accept it, is to be able to get one online tutoring student in 12 weeks, so that you can continue to have many light bulb moments that will light up an entire city. So if you guys are interested in joining us on that mission, then definitely keep your ears open. Now, next week, you guys, we are going to be, I'm going to be introducing you to the coaches that are going to be in the Jumpstart program. So Alexa and Wally, Suzanne Davis, and Terry Grigsby are going to be joining us on the call. And we're going to be talking about their roles within the Jumpstart program, and, you know, where their journey has led them from, you know, 0 students to being more than book solid in some cases, and, you know, what they are excited about sharing with you guys as they come in and you know, coach you to success, because everybody who joins the Jumpstart program is going to have a coach that they are assigned to. So this is different than anything we've ever done before. We're excited. Lisa, Ashley, you guys are already in the program with us. I'm loving it. I can't wait for you guys to all see how this is going to look at the end of the day. So if you haven't gotten on that wait list yet, click that button. Thank you, Helen, for joining us, and Beth and Leah and Sam and Jim and Alan and Patricia, Fernando, Sarah. So glad that you guys were able to join us today. So you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.